Hello, welcome back to another episode of Gamebread. This is episode 2, and this is where you get your weekly slice of games hot off the toaster. This is a Wasder.gg podcast. I am Lion Martinez. I am the product manager of Wasder, and I'm here with my colleague Andreas, who is our CRM manager of Wasder. How are you doing today, Andreas?
Hello. I'm all good, all good. It's been a good week of gaming, so I had a lot to do. How are you today?
Same, actually. Yeah, it's been good. Lots of news coming out. Today, I thought that we would talk a little bit about some new stuff and also some stuff that we've have been playing. For me, it's going to be a little bit maybe older stuff, but some stuff that I kind of enjoyed. And how about yourself?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about a little bit relatively new stuff at least. One is really new, and two relatively new. I thought I would start with the Outer Worlds actually, because since I finished it this week. So I don't know if I should
Amazing.
just go ahead and just talk a little bit about it. I just want to do like a last couple of sentence about what I thought about it in the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Go ahead.
So we talked a little bit about it last week, right? And I was thinking I was only singing the game praises. So as I was playing it, I was thinking, okay, what is it about this game that I don't like? There got to be something, right? And there are like these small things that I find really annoying that are in a lot of games. Um, so, for example, you have your party of two members and you, right? But you have to go back to the ship and enter the ship, which means a loading scene, and then go out of the ship, which means another loading screen, to be able to switch party members. And that's really annoying for me. That and that there is no in-game timer, so I don't know how long I played. I don't know why they don't have that. But those were like the two things that were negative about the game, I think. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a really good game. Everybody who is into RPGs of some kind should play it. Steampunk space, it's really good. A lot of different endings, a lot of different choices, and yeah, it was a good game. And that's all I wanted to add to it.
All right. All right. Yeah, it doesn't sound much. It sounds like you said that you thought the game was really good.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean these are two things that I find objectively wrong. Like
right.
there has to be a solution or an easy solution for you to be able to change your party members without traveling all over the map, going to the actual spaceship. And it's a pretty hefty loading screen as well. It's not over in like a click. So you
Right.
just
Yeah.
go
And
in by the door and then go out again. I didn't find any other way to do it. Maybe there is some secret that I don't know about, but I couldn't find any. So
hey, maybe
uh,
our listeners have some tips on that, but I mean, we're not journalists, so we don't have to be super specific about everything when we're
well,
playing
I
a
mean, I
game.
used to be. I used to be back in the days, right? Like many years ago
Exactly.
now,
So
but
so you're
I,
ashamed now of giving these opinionated
yeah, I mean,
reviews.
yeah, but it's like it's ingrained into my soul now, right? I think of these things whenever I think of what I'm playing. I can't stop.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I understand. I completely understand. That's kind of how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to me, kind of weird. I mean, I don't have a journalistic background, but when you work with games, you can it's you there's lots of stuff you kind of see through, but you have to let them go, and it kind of wears off after some time, which is one of the reasons why I kind of went out of and doing other things than games for a while, just so I could enjoy actual playing games as well, and not only see them in their beta form, non-textured, and all these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, because when you play a game for the first time, you want the full experience as a gamer. I mean, if you work with the product, then obviously you have to be there all along the way in through all the bad process, all the good process. So re you've already played all those scenarios out if you test it, for example,
Hmm.
and that's not since it's not the release product, it's not the experience meant for you. you know like when the game actually gets released, and you get the full-on experience. That's how it should be. Then everybody else has already played it to that amount that they know, okay, now it's good. Now we can release it, right? And you had to go through all of that, I guess.
Yeah. No. Oh yes. So many times. So many times. So it sounds like you would recommend this game.
Yeah, a
How
lot.
about you give it a score of between 1 to 5 slices of game bread? 1 being pretty bad, 2 being mediocre, 3 being good, 4 being a lot of fun and super good, and 5 being like the best game in the world ever. Would you give it?
Like that's the problem, uh, because we discussed this before, right? The 5 being the best game in the world ever. I think,
Okay. Let's say
like,
amazing then.
yeah,
Tone it down a bit.
because I
Dial it
think
back.
I think this game is amazing. I would give this on a 5 scale. I want to give it a 5.
Wow, a
Yeah,
5
I want to,
in your
because I think
first review.
it's that good. I mean, if the
All
only
right, you heard
flaws
it.
I can find is that, right? And everything
Sure.
else, it feels, I don't feel like it lacks anything. Then what else does a game need to get a 5? I think it deserves a 5.
Oh, you heard it here.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
5, then better get the game, and I'm going to hold you accountable if buy the game and if I don't like it.
Yep. Please do.
Okay, good deal. All right, super cool. All right, so any other words about the game, or you feel that you've
I feel
conveyed
like,
what you feel about it?
yeah, I feel like I'm past that game now. I've already uninstalled it,
Wow.
because
And
I
you gave
know,
it a 5.
yeah,
A 5 to me, you don't uninstall. Like if that's the last thing if you're bleeding out on the floor and you need hard drive space, it's still a close call when it's a 5
yeah,
out of 5.
but that's not why I uninstalled it. I uninstalled it so I forced myself to play the other stuff,
Oh, you
because
always
I
have
got a
answers to
lot in
stuff.
my backlog. I have so much to play that, and not
Mm,
enough time. So I can't play
mm,
anymore the Outer Worlds. I did all the missions. I got the ending that I got. I'll be like, yeah, sure, it would be cool to see the other stuff, all the other endings. But
mm-hmm.
then I'd just be playing that for another year, and
Uh,
it's just, if we're gonna talk about the Outer Worlds in a podcast for another year, then yeah, sure, we can do that. But I think it would
no.
add a little bit more if we talk about at least another 2 games, maybe. So
Surely. Okay,
that's the
that's
reason
great.
why. Yeah.
Okay, moving on then to some of the stuff that's been happening since our last podcast. And something that caught my eye for several reasons. One of them is I worked with VR games. I'm also a semi Half-Life fan. Is that we're actually getting a new Half-Life game, which was so many years ago, and with the constant rumors of a third Half-Life, and here's a VR Half-Life game. Of course, again, as something we poked a little bit at last time, is that it creates a lot of different opinions. Of
Yeah,
course,
I
you have
mean,
hardcore Half-Life fans. Yeah, I mean, you know where we're going with this. That are going to be, why would you want to do that to the series? And then you have VR gamers who's like, yes, finally something that looks like it plays amazing, and it does look quite amazing. But before we go into that, so go ahead with you had a
yeah,
comment.
yeah. No, I just wanted to add that, just how monumental this is because there was a time where people were like, we really want Half-Life 3. We want it to happen, right? And then there was the hype for a long time. It's like, oh, maybe finally it's Half-Life 3. And then it became a meme. Oh, this is going to be Half-Life 3. And then it died, and nobody talked about Half-Life 3 ever again. And now this Half-Life game comes out. Like, that's how long it has been. Like, it even went past the meme phase and died out, the idea of it. And it's not Half-Life 3, but it's a Half-Life game, right? So that's just what I
Yeah,
wanted to add to it. Yeah.
yeah, and that's great. I mean, that's why this is so polarizing again, because you have expectations, and I'm sure hardcore Half-Life fans feel So why are you putting resources into that when you could be building this that we've been waiting for so long? And another thing again of guesswork, kind of like with Google Stadia we talked about. What is it that they're really trying to get? Because VR VR games is a quite hard sell. Either you make it or you don't. There's not much in between there, and it's just word of mouth stuff. And I guess they feel as this game's IP is strong enough within this segment of gamers that owns this, maybe because it requires a certain amount of resources. You need and I'm talking about the PC version, and I worked with most of them, and I own an Oculus today, Oculus Rift. It requires hefty hardware and, of course, space to play it and time to play it and all these kind of things. So maybe they feel like, okay, if we are releasing our own VR hardware and we need something to showcase it on, and we put research in it and just make sure it's an IP that's one of the biggest gaming IPs in the history of gaming. I might say that with a slight hesitation, but probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And so
definitely
they're
up
expecting
there.
to hit. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely up there. And I think another thing that is interesting is because it's VR and because it's Half-Life, maybe there is also a thought that, okay, we're this confident in what we're able to bring to the VR table now, because there's a lot of people that are skeptical about VR still. And they're like, yeah, maybe I will buy it, when there's something I actually want to play. And this might be that game for a lot of people, I'm thinking.
It could definitely be a platform seller. It depends on which platform it actually releases on. I at this point don't know exactly all of them. But for sure, I mean, there was like Epic made Robo Recall, which is one of my favorite games. Even though it's more of like a tech demo, arcade kind of game, it's so much fun. It's quite polished when it comes to gameplay. You have robots coming in and you can rip them apart. Because especially with the Oculus Rift, and of course there's some other ones that do as well, but specifically Oculus Rift, when you have touch controllers, which means you have one controller in each hand, so it animates your hands in game. You can grab stuff, and in that game you can rip it apart and juggle them around and do cool combos with your guns, and dual wield and spin around and stuff. um to me it's worth it. I think that a lot of VR games expect a little bit too much still out of their gaming. And but I also have to say that if you haven't tried actual PC high-end VR gaming, it is actually a lot of fun. It's very good. It does fool your brain into believing that you're inside a video gaming or PC gaming a game world. The pixels are there. You can look around it. You can manipulate it. And then, of course, there's going to be a flood of bad demos of indie games that are good or bad. But there's some of them that actually gives you, because it pertains to the same thing, it gives you a higher experience compared to regular gaming, because it uses more of your senses at once, and it stimulates imagination in a way that a regular game cannot do. And if because you can't really judge it from seeing a YouTube video of someone else playing it. It's not the same thing, because it takes about 30 seconds and your brain starts forgetting that the field of view is quite narrow, and you feel like you're in there. I've read papers that claim and conclude that the brain actually makes real memories of it. I remember after the first couple of weeks, like the first week I started playing it, I had dreams I've never had before, where I was in control of things that I've never done before when it comes to being inside a game. I actually had a dream once, not going to be long with it, but where I was in an MMORPG, and it was fully fledged, and I was in full control of everything. And it was races, and there was elves and goblins and everything. And I went into this inn and I conversed with other game characters, and I was aware it was a game. And it was just weird that the brain started opening up things that I hadn't experienced before. But anyway, so it is a lot better than people realize. However, the threshold of doing it, of course, doesn't allow as much gaming as you do on a flat screen. I mean, it's much more comfortable just sitting down with a keyboard and a mouse or a controller and play. You have to make time to play that the VR stuff. And I think that's one of the hinders also for growth, not only the cost of having a good PC and the hardware itself, which is expensive, but that time commitment to setting everything up and putting it on. And also, of course, it's cumbersome to have on your head with all these tethering going on. There are new ones now that are less tethered and not tethered, but of course less powerful as well. But mostly you're tethered up, and there's still some form of nausea because the brain is handling all these things and balance and everything, and you get tired much more quickly. You play an hour and you're basically done. Yeah, I mean you can push it, but there's no point.
Yeah,
So all
there
these
is
things
also
combined,
there is also the you can't just press start and pause the game and pick up the phone if someone calls, right? You got especially if you have all these glove things on, you know.
I mean, you can, but it's same thing. Same thing again. It's cumbersome to do. You have to, you have to go out of the world. You got to hit a button. You have to, put there. It's cumbersome. It works, but so it's a very special niche, and this is why this is so special, because this could be one of the first ones that are not only the IPs mainstream, the developers are mainstream and make big games, right? And it could be something comes together. I saw the trailer, and it looks absolutely stunning compared to a lot of the other VR games out there. And
I
in VR, you don't really need to have it look spectacular because, again, being inside of a world that is fully immersive, as it's called, you're inside of it. It's more of how you can interact and how you can move around it. The brain's going to buy into it anyway. But
yeah.
it looks amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Like watching the trailer, it's called Half-Life Alyx, right?
It's Half-Life Alyx. Alyx being a character that was introduced as a side character and a non-player character in the first game.
Yeah, Alyx, if I remember
Yes.
correctly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, the trailer is actually amazing. Um, I love what they did with the trailer, and I really hope that that's how the end product is gonna be as well. Um, because if so, I really want to play it too. It looks really really cool.
Let's go. Oh, and I need to backstep. She's of course in the second game, not the first game. But so and some some backstory to all of this. And to me, why Half-Life was such a great game, Half-Life 1 and 2. Well, one of the things is I mentioned in the last podcast. I'm a sci-fi guy. It's a first-person game. It also has puzzle elements, and it was running on a proprietary engine, and so it's really smooth. And also, I remember just sitting in one of those carts in the beginning of the game, and you're coming in on a rail into this lab, sort of. That's the gist of it that you get as a player, and how it made you believe and feel like you were part of this evolving story, which I truly liked. And there's a lot of mystery going on there. You have these creatures and all of these things, and so it's also uh, a game and game series that have innovated and has been very solid and has thousands of different types of mods and has a big following in that community, which is also ties into why this being so special that this comes out now, where VR gaming and the VR industry, when it comes to games, and I'm talking about the headset versions and not AR or anything, is probably slightly stagnating. So,
Yeah,
but there are tons of graphs you can look at.
I
But
wanna.
I'm sure that was supposed to be further along at this point. But all of these things have gotten in the way. Just demoing a game specifically to someone that hasn't even played hardly any games to begin with is very hard.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now I
But
wanted
enough
to
about
add
that.
as well to the Half-Life 3 conversation. It would be kind of like, can you imagine the reactions if you made Half-Life 3 and it was a VR game? People wouldn't be happy then either.
Yeah,
So
and that can be the thing here. So who knows what they have in store. So just because of that, they probably realized that putting a Half-Life 3 game on VR wouldn't make too much sense. So they make a side game that's maybe I'm not sure they've come up with how long it is, but say it's 6 to 10, 12 hours or so, probably more like 6 or 8. And then they build on that for some hype and people's frustration. They're a bit smart about it. In 6 months from now, they announce that they're working on Half-Life 3. I mean, that's going to bring the gaming world to a halt to really talk about it. And
that would be cool.
Because we have E3 and all these game shows coming up that are huge, and dropping this game a little bit ahead of time before that is great PR, I guess.
For sure.
Like you said, if it was dead and you get people talking, even though it's frustration, it's still PR. And also it's like, yeah, guys, we know, so look at this.
Yeah,
we're gonna give you Half-Life 3, so you guys can relax now. You're gonna have some fun with this.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the Half-Life 3 developers, or Half-Life, I'm talking like it's actually confirmed, but if a Half-Life 3 would be released, it wouldn't be, a shit show like Duke Nukem Forever or something like that, right? But at least Duke Nukem Forever, it's not the same kind of case, because that game was in development for a long time and then it just died until someone picked it up and actually made it, and it was absolute trash.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. I don't think it was, honestly. I mean, yeah, if it came out as a AAA game, but a lot of it was probably on purpose too. I don't think they could have gotten away with much quality looking at what the game is based on. It's a spoofing 90s action, late 80s and 90s action. I mean, of course it was broken and shit, but it got people's attention.
Yeah, 100%, and that's what I mean. I mean, leading up to the game, everybody was talking about Duke Nukem Forever. Like, it was just wherever you went, whoever you talked to, everybody was talking about Duke Nukem Forever. And that's the thing, right? That you build up a hype again, and it's great PR. And I'm sure Duke Nukem Forever sold pretty well on that alone, right?
Probably sold well up front, and then it probably died out when people started talking about it. It wasn't that good. I bought it and I played it through because I was a huge fan of Duke Nukem. And this is the thing too. So the reason why is basically my very first, at least FPS online co-op experience. And this was back when we had modems to call each other, and we held up our phone lines to do it. So it's a dear old franchise to me. I didn't think it was as bad as people said, but
it was just not a game for its time when it was released.
It was 10 years late. I mean, 10 years earlier, it probably been pretty groundbreaking in certain areas.
Yeah, for sure.
But they cut it. I mean, it was definitely something that was picked up and painted up a little bit and then released and on the name.
Yeah, in the end, I'm just happy that it got released. I would love to see as well, like, StarCraft Ghost getting picked up and released, because that was a game I was hyping up for so long, and then it just died. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I was a StarCraft fan as a kid. That was my first online experience, playing StarCraft on Battle.net with my dial-up modem. And I remember my computer was pretty bad, so all the games were laggy, even with the dial-up modem,
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were so laggy, and I was climbing the ladder on rage quits alone. I wasn't very old, so I didn't really know how to play that well, but it was funny. Yeah.
And I don't want to be nostalgic about it, but I become nostalgic because it was part of my becoming an adult. But it's something that's hard to explain today. The feeling of here's a digital manifestation of your friend in front of you.
Yeah.
To me, it's mind blowing. The next thing is going to be when it's a hologram in front of you. That's going to be the next thing whenever can be rediscovered by young people.
Yeah, it was that big. I mean, it was
that big. All of a sudden, here's pixels, and it is moved around by your friend who's in another neighborhood. I mean, This is crazy.
I even remember
in one way. Oh, sorry to interrupt you, Andreas. But just a quick thing. That's because I've done that in VR as well, and that's. I mean, I today it's not as spectacular, but it reminded me of that when I played something like Arizona Sunshine. It's a zombie shooter, and I played that in co-op with a friend in the United States. And there he is, full-bodied, in front of me. My brain thinks so. It's full body this time and completely 3D or holistic. And he's wielding a gun and he's waving and all this kind of stuff in an army suit or army getup. Not exactly the same, but it's like, wow, this is the next step. And the next step after that is going to be like something holographic or something like that. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, like, it took me back to when I remember reading these magazines talking about the next generation of consoles, and this was the generation of PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube, right? And Dreamcast was in that generation as well.
I
And
own the Dreamcast.
oh, that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I do not. I own all the other ones. And I remember reading this article about the future of gaming is online and stuff, and I was thinking, no way, that ain't happening. Like it's not happening at all. And they were talking about all these peripherals you could buy and plug into the PS2, so you could plug it into the internet. And I was like, there's no way anybody's gonna do that, because everybody just want to sit and play next to each other, right? Like couch co-op was the way to go. Like, why would you ever give that up? I remember thinking those kind of things,
Yeah.
I was like, this is just a fad. It's just gonna disappear. No way it's gonna happen. Yeah. And to be fair, like, even though it was pretty well done, I remember Star Ocean Online, I think, was really big on Dreamcast.
Oh yeah.
But the other ones didn't pick up until like the generation after. But it was still like they started thinking about home consoles being online then, and it actually worked. But hardly any games really were developed for it back then.
A funny thought about all this is I remember, give it a few years away from Duke Nukem, and we're in the Battlefield 2 country,
Yep.
Somewhat more established online play. Not as today, but it started to work. But the interesting thing was, to me, that was always like a slower type game. It was slower gameplay, much probably because, of course, the game design itself, but also it couldn't handle too much going back. It was too much packets being thrown back and forth over at that time. We didn't have fiber. It wasn't fiber. There's still some kind of weird modem thing going on that was in a wall or something.
Yeah,
ADSL
0.25 MBS download.
Yeah, all that nonsense, But I remember that was, in a way, and here's something very nerdy and technical, but if you're watching old movies on old TVs, or if you turn off your motion flowing, blah blah blah, your cinematic blah 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 on your TV today, so there's less frames coming out, like the 24 frames. There's visual dirt. There's noise. Visual noise is the right term that's happening, that your eye isn't picking up, but because of the 24 frames, it makes it look cinematic, old school cinematic. And like 10 years ago, you could see the difference when TV series started doing like a higher frame rate, and it looks more smooth, and it's more like someone is there with a camera and a mobile camera that's 60 frames. It feels like it's more natural movement, but it doesn't feel as cinematic. It's a weird thing that your brain tries to interpret. There's noise happening between the frame rate.
Do you know what I think of when I hear visual noise?
I don't know, our CEO.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. But the kind of visual noise you were referring to, there was this TV channel called Hallmark.
Oh yeah, Hallmark.
And every single show they showed on that TV channel just had visual noise like that. Every single show. And whenever somebody says visual noise, I just think of the Hallmark logo like popping up on the TV screen.
Well, kind of like that, like old VHS tapes and such.
But it was some kind of filter they used as well that created that. I don't know. And all the shows had it for some reason.
That and the brain fills stuff in. Like, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. I know it's strange, but if you ever do it, like try it now, like watch like a letterbox old copy of a movie or something on your TV and turn off all the shit. Yeah, and you'll see there's a distance to it. You feel that there's a distance to it, like you're actually watching something that's presented as a different universe, or where the story is being told to you in a different format, where you're not as connected to it. It's not a bad thing. It's just that it feels old school cinematic. And then watch something that's really new with 60 frames or something like that, like like Lord of the Rings started doing it, and in that smooth movement, and it's more like a TV show nowadays.
Yeah.
Same thing I feel was with those old games when you had less frame rate and less packets going over in a slower gameplay. Today, when you're going into like a battlefield, I mean, there's lots of bells and whistles. There's tons of stuff happening. Everything's quite fast. I mean, not maybe a Battlefield to a Call of Duty, not that style, but it was something aesthetic to that old type stuff that's kind of going missing today. But of course, we have other cool stuff now instead. Visual effects, more people playing at the same time, more game modes, and there's tons of stuff that's good with what we have today. But it's just interesting. It's a cool when I reflect back on it, how I felt about it. It's the same thing like when I watch an old movie, that there's a different type of game design and gameplay due to less technical prowess in what we had.
Yeah.
I remember that, like sniping in like a Battlefield 1 or 2, you're creeping around, and you're seeing these little characters. I remember that's like, oh, those are players, and they're running around, and it's a slow moving thing, and it was more maybe tactical at that point towards a more maybe I'm not going to go out on a limb and claim that it's so, but I felt maybe it felt at least a little bit more military than more of a objective type deal, where you run and you try to grab something and you die and you come back out and run. I mean, back then, I could remember you had to like walk across a map if you didn't have it before they had tanks and vehicles, like that stuff. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, no, I was thinking as well of now that we talked a little bit about these things that became bigger things and taken for granted today, like how when all the gaming started to be online, right? When that shift happened, and it
Yeah,
became
and I
like a
think
huge addition to the gaming sphere, and now you have VR knocking on that door, right?
yeah,
But
and this is the standard now. The online play standard.
yeah,
So
exactly. And I remember thinking, okay, I was wrong about the online stuff, but I won't be wrong about this. And that was actually during the last generation, or it was actually like it became popular during the 360 with Kinect, you know? So you
yeah,
had the motion controls, right? But you actually had that with the PlayStation Eye as well before that. During PlayStation 2, I remember the PlayStation Eye that was so incredibly hard to get it to work. But you also needed a lot of space, and then the Kinect came to 360, and I remember watching this trailer with Peter Molyneux, who created Fable, and was known for hyping things up, and then it never really lived up to the standard that he presented. And he was showing off a tech demo called Milo, where they were like showing
I
off
remember.
objects to the camera, and Milo would grab that and pull it into the screen, kinda, and render it in his hands, what you drew on the paper. And it was an AI, so it understood everything you said, and you were having actual conversation with it. And when I saw that, and Peter Molyneux can sell anything, like he can make anything sound really, really hype. That's why, even though like he has gotten this snake oil stamp on him, I love listening to his presentations because he's just great at making them and making you feel really hype. But that was another thing that it just didn't work well enough, like the Kinect, and all the Kinect games were like niche party weird games. Like you
Yeah,
were,
the first like the first version, like the first stuff that came out of like the first year was really not that good. I mean,
yeah,
for example, we realize as gamers that if you have a fighting game where you make the movements, there's going to be there's going to be problems.
Yeah, and there
Number
was
one,
like
because you're standing in
lighting
one direction
problems,
space.
etc. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're standing in one direction in space, and you're seeing a 2D game, and even if it's a 3D game and it's like a first-person thing, there's gonna be problem. I mean, there's problems today that's still carried over from that time to VR today. They're boxing games which are getting better, for example. Just a quick thing that for example, I played the Creed game on VR, which is a fun boxing game, but there's an issue of that you can when you're not hitting something physical, you can wield your arms super fast. And they have a mode. They have solved it by that you get fatigue if you start moving, and your hands will get slower in game. You can see your own arms, but then the animated arms kind of slow down a little bit. Yeah, so there's solutions to it. But a lot of these games, same thing with those, that if you're not holding a sword that weighs 3 kilos, you're holding a controller that weighs 200 grams, and you can just swipe those things around like you're nuts.
Yeah.
Right? And you can,
I mean,
you can
the
win
only
that
way to really solve that is if you create a full-on exoskeleton or something, and put on yourself, so
there's problems, yeah?
resistance in what you do, right? But
Yeah.
I wanted to say that there was actually one game I thought worked really well on Kinect, even on 360. I think it was on 360. Yeah, on 360. And that was Dance Central. That actually worked really well.
I agree with that. And I think dance games in general work quite well when it's this type of technology.
But I mean, it's a lot of investment to play some dancing games, right? It's kind of.
I guess you're a master at that, huh?
No, I was playing it a lot, but I had this guy because
put up some videos.
Yeah, no, I like we had a Chilean guy who worked with me on reviewing games and such, and he was really good at that. And I remember there was this GameX in Sweden, and they were showing off Dance Central, and he was like, "Yeah, you got to come up, and we were gonna do a dance battle." And I'm like, "Dude, I can't dance. Like, I can't move at all. When I move, it looks like a refrigerator is trying to break loose from the wall. Like, it's just terrible."
That's funny.
And he was like so smooth, like he could do all the dance moves. It was just perfect. But it was really fun. It was just not fun to be put in on a stage in front of a crowd and do it against a guy who's really good at it. And like that was just humiliating. But I got it for myself and did it at home, and it was really, really fun. I spent a lot of time with that, actually.
Yeah, it works kind of well in those social games. So, I mean, and it's one of those things that I think VR also covers in some way, that, oh, here's some cool stuff I want to show my friends. But then compared to just grabbing a controller and playing a game, entry thresholds much lower, and that's kind of what you do. It's kind of like when you buy a TV today. Also, there's again this, you have motion control, you have voice control and stuff, and everybody's probably gone through a phase of that. I mean, I bought TVs like that, and I was like, nah, just I want the money going into quality, pixel density, blah blah blah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We kind of veered off of topic a little bit, but it ties into like these platforms of technology that you're putting games on. And so basically wrapping up, that Half-Life Alyx here comes to VR, I think is quite revolutionary. I'm still, as Stadia, I'm hesitant. The difference here is I'm definitely getting it though. That's for sure. Even though it might be not the longest game, I like that quality, and I like the IP. So I'm excited to see what they can do. I mean, they have some other things connected to it. For sure. First, for example, the demo stuff, the demo environments that you can control how you start the games and such, and that's very polished for what it is. So I'm quite looking forward to this. We'd love to hear what you listeners have to say about this. What's your opinion? Post us a comment on our Discord or where you listen to this, or on wasder.gg, of course, and we'd love to talk to you about it.
Yep. Also, I think there's a good segue here, because we're talking a little bit about, back in the old days, right? And I loved, like we talked about it last time as well. Like I'm an RPG junkie, and that means like the single player experience, me playing my RPGs, you know. And that's actually what I've been playing after I finished the space RPG back to a more fantasy RPG. So I've been picking up a game called GreedFall that I actually missed was released 2 months ago or so, I think. Or it was released in October, I think. So yeah, about 2 months ago. And it's an RPG that I was told had as good a storyline and scripting as Dragon Age, which made me go, "Huh, this person is lying." Um, but it's enough to get me intrigued. So now I got to get the game, play it, and understand why this person is lying to me. But this game is actually really interesting. I find it really interesting. So it's set in a like an era of, if you think human colonization, that kind of era, and you're colonizing this big island which has mythical creatures and magic on it. So you actually come from a world that is very much like our own, but you go to this magical land that they've discovered, which have natives, and it has like tons of like magical creatures, and there is also really deep political issues and political tensions between all the different factions, and you're just getting thrown into that. So it's really deep. It has a lot of like really interesting choices where you always feel like, okay, whatever I choose, it's bad, or like this is gonna backfire on me. But if I don't do this now, it's gonna backfire on me later. Those type of choices. So they've really nailed that really well, I think. Which I think is a really important thing if you want to do RPG that has where your actions mean something, right? Because if it's just like black and white answers, then it's no fun. Um, so it does that really well. And I would describe it gameplay wise as a mixture between, like, if you have Dragon Age, the world of Dragon Age, but the combat of something like Dark Souls meet Fable, kinda. If you remember the old Fable games.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's something like that, and it's really like the combat's really well made. I'm surprised. You have like all these parry buttons and like so you can parry projectiles and you can roll out of um, enemy attacks, that kind of stuff. And usually when they have these kind of mechanics in RPGs, it's like, okay, this skeleton or whatever swings his sword and you rolled and it's obviously not hitting you, but there is some lag in like hitbox and hurtbox, so you get hit anyway, even though you're standing like 2 meters away from him. This game doesn't have that. Like every time I rolled away from something, I always felt like I actually rolled away from that and it actually missed. And there's never like a delayed hit on me or something like that. And also the parry system works really well. So the combat is so well made, which is a surprise to me. The and it looks really nice too. Like the environments are really great and colorful and mystical. Like and it tries to portray that while still being a little bit dark, like dark and dangerous, so to say. So it's a weird mix of that, but it somehow works. And then there is also like the only thing that doesn't work with the graphical stuff is the faces. The faces are actually quite atrocious. Like the when characters talk, they just kind of stand there yapping. There is no like like the full on face animations, which is a bit of a bummer, especially when all the other stuff is looking so nice. And there's also like the UI looks like kind of a beta version UI, and there's some graphical glitches here and there. But like, so it could do with a lot of more polishing, I think. But overall, like it has given me a really good first impression. It doesn't also like I was talking about this when it comes to the Outer Worlds as well, because I hate mundane side quests. Like go and get 5 pelts from person A and deliver it to person B, or go and slay 5 flowers for arbitrary reasons. Like that kind of stuff just never really satisfied me. But here, every side quest has a story to it, and all the side quests also usually have a choice. So one of the first missions, for example, um, since this won't be a spoiler, this is like in the first hour of the game, but one of the side missions is you go to the ambassador of a very religious country, an ambassador that's in your country, and you're supposed to uphold relations between countries and your country. And this person says, yeah, we have this heathen spouting nonsense, and we want him gone. But we can't do anything because we're on your land, and this guy is giving us a bad reputation, pretty much. So can you go and please, take care of it? So you eventually meet the guy, and then it's like this person has actually found like secret or older sacred texts that the government doesn't want to make published because it kind of counteracts the teachings that they give in society. So it's pretty much a censorship, and he should have his head chopped up because of it. So what do you do as a person then? Do you just go out and kill this person, or do you arrest him, or do you let him go? How do you handle letting him go? Do you just send him away? Do you send him to another allied person? And then after you've made that decision and you go and you give the quest back to the quest giver, right? Do you tell the truth or do you lie? And it always feels like if you lie, will that come and bite you in the ass afterwards, right? So it's that kind of side quest, and it's really, really cool. I
It
think.
sounds super interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
and in the office you showed me some gameplay where I showed myself. I can't remember what you talked about it. We talked about it. And the first thing I thought, which was what a lot of people were saying in the comments, was, "Oh, it kind of looks like Assassin's Creed, yeah." But then there's these RPG elements, which is a little bit like Witcher, and you have Dragon Age and these things. And I guess like, wow, this actually looks really good, and it seems like reviews are also very, very good. And your words, you say that it's good. So I'm actually interested in it.
Yeah. And I'm
And
about
also just
10
a little
hours
thing.
in. Yeah. Continue.
Oh, 10 hours already. That's nice. About your rhetorical questions about what you do. The weird thing about me is that when I do like PvP and MMORPGs and etc., I have a much easier time being not as nice to other human beings as I am to NPCs for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why, but that's how it is. So to your questions is I'll kill everybody, and I'll well, I won't because it's NPCs. But I probably play both, like I do in Mass Effect. I play one character really nice and the other one really an asshole. See what happens.
Yeah, but here it doesn't feel like
Yeah, I mean, it's like
you're an
I guess
asshole
it's
or
like
you're an
Bioware does.
angel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's moral. It's moral
Yeah, there's never a right
dilemmas.
choice. There's
Yeah,
always like whatever you do, there's always something that feels like it could go wrong, or whatever you do, there is always a price to pay for it.
yeah.
There is never a good
There's
choice.
something good and there's something bad, like some of the
Yeah,
Mass
yeah,
Effect games do perfectly.
yeah.
So
And
that's really cool.
also this like how you handle these quests, for example. Maybe you gain something from it later on. I don't know. But there is also like um, your reputation or how your country stands with the other countries, right? And how that brings later on into like political mishaps or
You know,
political
that's
tensions, right?
and I mean, if a role playing game has that, you already have my interest. And then if the combat is at least somewhat smooth and fun to play, then I'm definitely interested. I saw in that little gameplay cutscene, or sorry, in that little gameplay video, one of the characters had a musket or some sort, and took a shot at something far away. At the same time, was attacked from the side, and then just flings it up in the air, grabs it on the other end, and swats the incoming character. So it was really cool. I kind of like that stuff. I
Yeah,
also like that. It's a little bit of a mix to me with the setting and like doing more modern like cinematic combat, which is cool.
yeah,
I
like
like that.
it has some pretty interesting classes. I mean, it obviously has like the your normal tank warrior kind of stuff. I play as a mage somehow. Like it's not exactly a mage, but it's mage-esque. You like shoot balls of energy and like you have like this stasis shield to parry stuff, and like it feels kind of misplaced, but it's also kind of makes sense once you reach the island of magic stuff.
Man.
And then there is like the other class as well, which has like muskets and what's it called, like rapiers or like
Yeah,
yeah, that kind of stuff.
definitely
And
going on my backlog. This.
yeah,
I
yeah,
hate you. You keep doing this to me. It's more
yeah.
games I have to play.
And you know, I thought the Outer Worlds was kind of like a game, you know, like it's not too big. But this game so far, it feels big. Like
Uh,
I'm 10 hours in and I felt like I've done nothing.
uh,
Constantly been doing quests, constantly been exploring like the cities feel huge. And that was another thing I was thinking about, like graphically. Like it has, you know, like invisible walls, which is always a bummer, right? But they have kind of done them very smart. And it's not like the edge of a city is just a wall. Like when you're in the actual big city, you can kind of see it's like a closed fence or something, and you can see the city expand beyond the horizon. So it actually feels like a
yeah,
huge city. And even though once I look at the map and I start running from one part to the other instead of exploring, I'm like, hey, wait, this isn't so big as I thought it would be. But it gives the
right,
impression
right.
of that. So that's another
It's like
quality
part
of
of
it.
the skybox, part of the world box. Like it's they render things
Yeah,
in the distance. Yeah,
yeah, for sure, for sure. Like it's just placed there. It's just placed really well, I think, and
nice.
it gives a very open feeling, even though it's quite closed.
All right, good stuff. Looking forward to a review of that next time then,
Yeah, yeah, that's
or
gonna
a
be a lot
score.
of
I guess.
hours.
I guess that's
Yeah,
part of the review, but
I will
a score.
try. I will try to get those hours in, but there's a lot going on this time, so we'll see. We'll see. You know, Christmas coming up, etc.
Uh
But
huh.
yeah,
What do you mean Christmas? You mean game muss?
exactly.
It's no Christmas. It's only what you get, and how much you're playing it the day after.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. That's what
Yeah,
it used to be, at least.
it used to be. Yeah,
Now it's
now we
about a lot of
can I
unnecessary
afford it?
calories. Yeah,
What do I don't have to? What can I cut out of my diet to afford the next game?
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. All right. Well, I guess I could talk a little bit what I've been playing. And I've been playing two little bit older games. One of them, firstly, is the last one in the Arkham series of Batman because they were on sale on Epic, the Epic game launcher. We can. That's a whole another podcast that we might not be very
Let's say it's
happy
not
about.
very epic.
It's not very epic. Yeah, it's another launcher and it has problems and stuff. But anyway, it did have that sales, which was it's like a Warner Brothers sale where you got all three games. This wasn't even a sale, actually. To be honest, it was all Batman and all the Lego Batman games for free. So, and I played the two previous ones, and just a very quick one is that the first Batman Arkham Asylum, uh, great game. Warner, the studios they work with, I guess it's Rocksteady, I think,
Yeah, it's
for that.
Rocksteady. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They pay attention to detail and they build the character according to the comics. So I love it that way. Um,
Yeah, it's very dark and
awesome text,
gritty.
dark, nicely textured. It's a little bit closed in though, the asylum because it takes part in the asylum. And then the Arkham City came out, huge improvement in like game mechanics. I felt it was a little bit big though, and the open city was a little bit too open in the case that it wasn't really you didn't have that strong, to me at least, strong story pushing you pushing you along. Um, so Arkham Knight to me to me fixed all those things for me. As soon as you drop into the game, you're thrust into this story of Scarecrow, Scarecrow's threatening the city, and you're always getting cinematics that is done in game, in engine, and I play this in 4K, so it looks amazing, where you're taken to the next step, and you have a choice to do the other things for bonuses. Like you can do those, but and those are also lifted up more cinematically and a much more strong presentation. So it's just not running around beating up thugs. And them again, that how they pay attention to detail, how you traverse the city, how you are presented with the next part of gameplay, like when they introduced pretty early though the Batmobile, and how the sound of the engine when it revs, and how they teach you how to play the game, and how you utilize that later, and how you combine all your things to finish the missions and everything. Superb, I think. Small gripe with maybe that sometimes the the combat mechanics can be a little bit messy if you're not on a controller. I prefer to play it because I play on a PC. I prefer to play it on a keyboard and a mouse. And there's a few things that are clunky. If you play this game, you quite probably know what I mean. But overall, intriguing storyline, gruesome, and you also get to play a little bit as the Joker, and you get to know more about what happened to Joker from the last game. I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. It's even so it might be a little bit long actually. I think I clocked 30 hours or something in it playing a main story. But that said, I'm not crunching through them. I'm enjoying it. I'm trying some different angles.
Yeah, I mean
So
that's quite a lot of hours for a game of
there's quite a
that
lot of hours. Yeah,
genre.
that side quest as well. And then I probably have 50% left to do of the side stuff. There's tons of like penguin stuff. There's
The riddles,
the
I guess.
Riddler, yeah, the Riddler stuff also lifted up. Now it's not just getting doing those puzzles to get statues. Now he's fully voiced completely, and you're engaging with larger parts of those puzzles. They're taking place in much more designed ways, right? So an amazing game, definitely a 4 out of 5, strong 4 out of 5. Bread slices for me, game bread slices for me. Get that game if you like the other ones, or if you even haven't played anyone. You don't need to play the other ones for this. Super
That's
good
a
game.
lot of bread.
That's a lot of bread. It deserves it though. So
Yep.
that's what I'm talking about. So we're gonna move on from that a little bit. Enjoy that game. Get that game. I have a long stemming love-hate relationship with the Total War series, which is it's an RTS strategy game. It does something really interesting though. It's a grand strategy game is quite slow, and there's a huge map, and there's small things that happen, and you're manipulating economics and politics, etc. So they've taken that aspect and sped that up a little bit and make it more simple, especially through the last couple of years. It's quite simplistic, but it's easy to grasp and understand, and it does make a difference. And then they've taken the RTS elements of older games like Command and Conquer. In these games have troops that you created and bought and sustained. So you bring that into a big battlefield of thousands of units, and you do combat against the other races, or depending on the game, which one in the series you play. However, that one is a bit slower than the RTS game. So they found something where like they have two of these different parts that just fit well together. In the last couple of years, the actual environment is what you're fighting in. So if you're in a mountain region, you'll see those mountains, or if there's a landmark, you'll see that landmark. And it's all about managing the troops' strengths and weaknesses, and not getting flanked, and utilizing the right troops at the right time, which is amazing to learn, really cool to look at. So what they did a couple of years back, 2015 or 16, they did a collab with Games Workshop that does Warhammer. Warhammer is a 40-year-old series. It used to be just a board game, and there's statues and little figurines, and
I used to paint them as a kid.
There you go, right? So it's a deep, very niche but very fitting genre. It's also fantasy. This one's fantasy. Of course, you had the 40K, which is an updated like cyberpunkish kind of thing in space. it has its own story, and we can talk about it some other time. But this one is the fantasy world. You have elves, dark elves, high elves. You have orcs, and this and that and the other. And so they came up with that game, which I really liked. Had some problems though, and they sorted all that out, in my opinion, most of it out for Total War Warhammer 2. Number one thing they fixed was that the end game in one was slow. They tend to be slow because you're just expanding. Every turn you get more and more stuff to do. So it's turn-based when you're on the strategy map. So now they implemented that. There's this vortex that's somewhat in the middle of the map, and you have high elves defending it, and you have dark elves and other dark races trying to bring it down, doing rituals. And that's like a leveling system. The first one's quite easy to do. When you do to get one ritual done, you need a certain amount of shards that you find on the map and that you get by occupying cities, etc. And then it takes longer and longer, but not too long, right? And it gives you purpose of not just building armies and taking over stuff and having other people just pop up and try to attack you. So you have these two factions. There's a couple of races per faction that they're fighting for this, as in resources, again, to the vortex. So it's exciting at the same time. And I mean, when you get to the battlefield, and I have to add to that, I bought a mod, not a mod, I bought a DLC. It's called Blood for the Blood Gods, which adds gore to the game.
Which
right?
I know
So you
you're
have
a
like,
fan of.
I love it. Yeah. So you have these thousands of units that you're controlling in a battlefield, and you have this opposing force of thousands coming towards you. And if you like the Battle for Middle Earth stuff, if you like that kind of large armies coming, just marching towards you, and you're trying to cut them down with archers and artillery, and you just see them getting hit by these arrows and just falling and dying and exploding in blood, then this is for you. Imagine. When you upgrade your garrisons and your armies and everything, you have like dragons coming in and just ripping them apart. I was playing with a friend who can play this co-op story as well. It's amazing. You can what you do is when just a little quick thing. So when you're in a co-op, when another person is playing a battle, he can gift you troops and you can help him out, which can be good or bad depending on how good you play, because you're splitting up your army, but at the same time you can do flanking and stuff easy as long as you communicate. So he gave me his Hydra. Hydra is like a snaky monster. It's an ancient monster with several heads, dragon heads or snake heads. So it's an ancient monster in lore, right? So and when you play this co-op, your friend can gift you troops, so you can play the battles together and you can do flanking and stuff together as long as your communication is good. Otherwise, it's easy to get wrecked too. But basically, so he gifted me that and some other ones, and this rambling monster thing with 6 heads or whatever just threw himself into the opposing army and just started picking them apart. This thing is like 10 times as big, or 5 times at least. One of the heads picks one up, throws him up in the air. He catches it with both heads and just rips him apart, and there's blood everywhere. It's amazing, right?
Yeah, that sounds
And you're
cool.
sitting there and like commanding these troops, and it's really cool. Like, hundreds and thousands of them, and they're running around like the crazy monkeys getting killed, and you try to do the best. And there's magic. You have heroes and commanders and lords and stuff that can do magic, and some dual wield, and they can ride dragons and horses. So it's a really good game. Of course, I'm not done with it. It does have a few flaws. One of them is that the siege play tends to drag out, and it's a battle for controlling the walls, which can get kind of stale, and there's a lot of that. It's also the learning curve is quite steep. So if you don't have the interest of these things, like an RTS, the strategy, and it being in this world, then you're not going to like it. But if you do, you're going to love it. The menus and front end, which is how the menus are designed and stuff, is still a bit clunky. The AI can be relentless in that it kind of knows where you're going because you're clicking, and you have to adapt to that. So it's a little bit unfair. There's a few things you can do. It's called cheesing the AI. You hug a wall or something like that, to exploit that kind of stuff. And a lot of player consent is that some of these DLCs should maybe be part of the game. I mean, it's like a €2, which is like it's like $3 or something like that. So I don't think it's too bad because you get a lot of value from them. But there's some clunkiness, and this is one of them. Definitely, again, a strong 4 out of 5. If you like these kind of things, you haven't tried this series out, this game is for you, definitely. Just if you enjoy a big co-op experience and you will sit there cheering in front of your screen for things you never thought you're going to be cheering about, like, for example, surviving an ambush when they come in 5,000 strong and you're 1,000 and you have to really stretch it out. This game's for you, but it's going to take a long time.
Yeah,
This is
we'll
not
see
a
because you
finished
forced
game.
me to buy it, so I got to
Boom!
try
There
it
you
out.
go, Andreas,
Yeah.
and we're gonna play it. So you're gonna enjoy it. You like grand strategy, you like magic, and all these things. I think
Maybe
you're
that
gonna
will
like it.
make for a good stream sometime.
Yeah, we should. Let's do that. We're gonna do a marathon.
Yeah.
But anyway, fun game. I like it a lot. Have you guys played the Total War series? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Have you played this game? Are you excited about the coming ones? One little thing. These games also play out as basically episodes. Number one is one part of this timeline, and this second game is the next part of the timeline, and then there's a number 3 coming, which I heard like in 2020. So there's tons of value across, like DLCs work across games as well. So it's so much gameplay you get, but you have to be patient. So that's all I have to say about that. Strong 4 slices out of 5.
It's a lot of bread.
Yeah, it's a lot of bread. That's a lot of bread. All right. I think we've been on here for about an hour now, aren't we?
Yeah.
So far. Okay.
We still
So
got
do you have
stuff
anything
to
additional?
talk about. Nah, I mean, I could talk for hours, but we're trying to keep these to like an hour-ish. So I'll say.
As you can hear, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, as your listeners can understand, we can sit and talk for hours, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I think we can leave everything else to our coming episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Gamebread, your weekly slice of games, hot off the toaster. This is a Wasder.gg podcast. And in Wasder, you can be a gamer always. Go check it out if you haven't. We got some cool stuff out there for you. So that said, give us your thoughts and feedback about this episode and what we've been talking about. We talked about Half-Life Alyx, excited about that. Some of the games that Andreas has been playing, some of the games I've been playing, and we will see you in 2 weeks or so.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.